Hello, and welcome back to the More Than Mindset Show. My name is Kim Gilry. I am your host. And today I have a guest. Her name is Kris Devillier. She is from Breaux Bridge, Louisiana. Kris just graduated from the MINDBODY coaching program. And I wanted to bring her on to talk about what her discoveries were, what she's doing in her business, how was her experience over the last year, and just share some of the goodness that she's bringing to Louisiana. Welcome, Kris.
Thank you so much, Kim, and thank you for all you do.
What do you think is the biggest difference between what you were doing before coming in and where you are now 1 year later?
Oh my God, so many changes in the way in which that my maturity in leaning in to this emotional intelligence. Like you just cracked everything open inside of me of something that I knew that I have been looking for all my life. I think about going back in life and you're in your 20s and you're actually like, I'm looking for something, I'm looking for something. And then you're in your 30s and it's like, I have this missing. You're not looking anymore. You think it's missing. You're in your 40s and it's coming in and it's like, what's this bridge I need to cross over? Like, what's happening? Then year comes to 50s and you're like, okay, why is this slamming me back down to the ground? I'm hanging on from a bridge with my fingertips, like, and I'm so sensitive to everything. And now, after this coaching program, my maturity level in the way in which that life things can come at me now. And I'm like, yeah, okay. That's just those thoughts wanting to have some racing going on. And I'm not giving in no more. I'm not going to let them have this part of me anymore. And the person I'm talking about is my thoughts, my own thoughts that just were in my hormone ages, just getting like more and more out of control. And we start blaming a list of health concerns. We start blaming so many other factors that at the time in naturopath school, we go through the mind, body, spirit. A lot of people use the term Louise Hay, if you were raised in our term, time zones. And I mean, we understand that the emotional aspect connection to the body, but to see it in your own life unfold and tying it in. So the biggest part when I first met you and watching you on social media and like, okay, wait a minute. I'm noticing something here changing in even her and her growth. If you've watched somebody for, at least 7 years on social media. And so after having a conversation, I was like, okay, wait a minute. I thought it was this part that I was missing. And I started when I first came in doing some work, I realized you kept saying this, like you came in at such a lower level than where you were supposed to be. But that's what we do to ourselves. We turn around and we discredit ourselves or we undervalidate or undervalue our own self in where we're at. And within those first 6 weeks, I was going through some major grief. I was making a lot of transitions hormonal after 45 years of being on a menstrual cycle. And I was like going down and trying to figure out what is this missing piece? There's something missing. And when I finally turned around and said, yes, I want to do the coaching aspect to this. And when I leaned in and I opened the program, I was just like, you've got to be joking. That was that point that I knew I was where I needed to be. But at the time, I still didn't know how to show up because my only way that my nervous system would decompress was to shed tears when I was talking about something I was so passionate about changing. As a professional or being in that professional role for so long, and to be put, like, I guess I want to call it, I wanted to be in the classroom, but I really wanted to grow in each skill set instead of like learning the information and moving on. And then that's when I realized, oh my God, this is more than a mindset. And this is what your podcast is called, because it was a detangulization in what was going between my emotions and my mindset, and not realizing the way we describe something the way we're going to tell the story, we could either stay stuck or we could keep building that part inside of us that just becomes solid versus the one that I've always said just puts you back in those tears because you feel like there's something missing or you're triggered by something.
So I'm super curious. Like we jumped right in. So let me pull out for a second just to go back to where you were. So whenever I
Mhm.
first met you, I remember we were doing the consultation and I was like, Kris, like you've been extremely successful in your business, in your naturopath business for a long time.
Yeah.
And what you were doing was far advanced for your area. Like I remember that first conversation. What
Mhm.
was the thing like when you say something was missing, what did that look like? If you're working with patients or even with yourself,
Mm, yeah.
and what kept happening? Like I know what it was for me in the gym and what I was watching, but what were the actual symptoms? What were you seeing? You were like, I'm doing this and then this is still missing. How would you describe that?
So when clients would come in, they're turning around and telling me all their health issues. And I'm asking them, what's your greatest health concern? And they have the list or what someone else told them. So I'm going to use a label, that diagnosis code. Okay, they told me this. And then you ask them the question, and that was 15 years ago. It's like,
Mm,
okay. And today that's still true? Well, no. So I'm going
mm.
to just use glucose. So a person who turns around and gets their numbers in range, they're no longer pre diabetic. They were diabetic. They're in range. But watch this, their mind or their thoughts and their body weren't closing in that gap of, oh my God, like the light bulb moment was not going off in them of, oh, I can't say that I'm diabetic anymore because I'm not. They literally have reversal of diabetes on my protocol. I'm no longer pre-diabetic, but I'm still acting like. So
Oh,
the actions, and I go back now, this is my big part. We can overload in information and research something, but never ever take one action to change the gap.
so what I hear you saying is there was diagnosis that was reversed, but they were still showing up in the identity of the person with the diagnosis.
Yes.
And then you heard, like, wait a minute, this is what she's talking about. This is what this more than mindset. There's something.
Yes.
What did you hear specifically that gave you an idea that, wait a minute, someone else has just figured out has also figured out what I'm thinking?
So as I started questioning them more of, okay, so tell me what's your number? And they would give me an in range number. And they would turn around and be sitting there and still saying, hey, I need a supplement for this. Or for me, it was when I came to it, it was like, okay, wait a minute. I have the grief, I have the broken heart. Now I'm getting the pneumonia last year in November, and now I'm getting, but yet I was just still stuffing and stuffing and stuffing.
Hold
And
on,
I'm
hold on, hold on. I want to make sure we're on the same page.
okay.
At this point, you're already recognizing the mind body symptoms. Like when you mentioned Louise Hay. So,
Yeah.
and then now you're mentioning grief. So, whenever you're talking about somebody who's coming in with pneumonia or with lung issues, and they're also addressing grief, and there's a knowledge of it, and if we know it, then it shouldn't exist anymore, but it was still existing.
Yes.
That's what you mean by something was missing? And
Something was
it was the mind, the way the mind was interpreting the diagnosis.
the way the mind was interpreting and
So, no
the
matter what the treatment was, they
nope,
were going to continue with the diagnosis.
absolutely.
And so, what did you hear that you knew you had to do this program in order to address that? Because knowing it is one thing, but how to actually help move it and change it in someone else's life or teach it is a very different skill set.
So when I went and started the program and got coached, so I showed up and got coached, and I had to let down a lot of the walls I had built up. I had to let go of. I'm trying to think of the word in which I could describe it. But for me, it was a heart wall. But it's like for someone who doesn't know what a heart wall is I didn't let people in very easily. I didn't trust very quickly. I didn't allow people to come in and be able to find my vulnerability. And I let you in. I showed up. I got coached many times, but the first time that because at first I just sat there and I just listened. And I probably did that for at least 6 weeks before I even allowed you to coach me or allowed you to ask questions to me. And the beauty about all of this is that you gave me that space to even just show up and grow in that journey of how I was going to turn around and be able to receive. Because I wasn't a person, I came to realize this about myself. I wasn't a person who received
Mhm.
from other people very well. And, at the end of how you said, at the end of this program, I learned a term about uncoachable. And I would say I was uncoachable. When I first met you, I was uncoachable because I was defensive. I would not let the wall down. I would not let someone ask me good, deep questions that would actually get down to the root cause of how we were going to unveil.
This is such an important point of so many people's struggles is the inability to receive. So there's I can see, like I'm aware that I'm stuck. And then I understand I'm stuck and now I choose to receive. And then being able to receive. Like I choose to and I'm able to.
Able to.
This
I,
was huge for me too. I
when
was not
you
able
came
to
up
receive.
one day and you had that, I love the way in which your visuals of when you write on the giant sticky notes and you put, I choose to, I get to, and I forgot what's the third one, but that was huge for me. I get to be asked some hard questions and I get to answer them honestly. Because most of the times when we get asked hard questions, we want to deflect or, like, oh, well, let me just not answer it all the way. But what I allowed is I really dropped and said, no, I want to be able to think about these and I want to be able to answer them from deep within me in order to allow change to happen.
It's like we surface level
Oh,
and
yeah.
it's very aloof.
Oh, yeah.
And that's a protection mechanism. And
Oh,
you see
that's
this.
the word I've probably been looking at. My protection, it was like, how thick do you want it? It was up there. It was, and I didn't see it within me that needed to come down to trust, to trust my own vulnerability, to trust my own journey in life, to trust that my journey was my journey. So many times, like we want to say, I don't, oh, yeah, well, I want to leave that behind. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. I want to bring all of me. I want to
Mhm.
bring my 17-year-old self who did some wrong things. I want to bring my 36-year-old self who was trying to make a change. I want to bring all of her with me now. If there was the biggest shift that took place for me was I don't have to tear me apart, leave me in closets, or leave certain parts of me behind. I could actually integrate all of me in every, how you said that, proud mama moment, the moments that my parents weren't proud of me, and we all have this. Like we all sit here and when we want to tell the story, we only want to give the proud mama moments, but there's many times that our parents were very, very dissatisfied with us. And how can I bring all of her along this journey? And like you're saying, like I'm in business. And what started happening was I was like sitting in my consultations and I almost felt like I didn't belong in there anymore because of the fact that so much frustration with the clients were coming up. And it was mirroring the frustration that I was going through in not being the authentic person who needed to show up in these consultations and say, wait, 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 let's step back.
This is so important. So, for those who are listening that are practitioners, I think this comes up a lot and it's kind of hard to talk about. So, I love that you're willing to be vulnerable with this. because what you're speaking of is bypassing when we leave a parts of
Mm.
us, and we're just going to take the good parts, and it's coming because of imposter syndrome, right? There's like,
Yeah.
I'm not, yeah, I'm not good enough. I haven't,
I need
done
20
things.
more
So
class
we're going to
certifications.
leave the bad parts behind. And that's an inability to confront. And the only reason we would be unable to confront is if we don't have emotional maturity, the
Yeah.
ability to process and manage emotionally, our emotional IQ. The only reason we can't confront anything and everything is because we don't have the tools and the skill set to be in the dysregulation without jumping out and bypassing. And so I think what you're saying is so important for those your age in your area who we were not allowed to
Or any
express.
small town in the US.
Yeah,
You
but yeah, and I'm saying
you
this
know,
this for all the practitioners that are over 50 years old. Like
absolutely.
there is, it's almost not acceptable to go through your own experience in that vulnerability, because that means you're not professional. Like that's the
Yes.
label that's given, when it's the complete opposite. So this leads me to a question for you, because I experienced this myself.
Mm.
Now that you took the patient or the client seat, because that's what you were not allowing yourself.
Yeah.
So now that you were in the student role and you moved through the discomfort and didn't die, because it does feel like you're going to die.
Correct. And I felt like I was gonna die.
It does. How much better of a practitioner are you in the ability to
Mm.
stay and grant their beingness, like in whatever state they are, without reacting to it emotionally from the inside of yourself?
Holding that space for my clients now, I am watching them bloom out of their own skin. Like their skin is glowing, their face is glowing when they come in, their demeanor or the way their posture, even some of their physical pain, like that back pain or that hip pain or they're coming in and they have a little more strut and you bring it up and you ask them for their homework and it's like, well, I don't have that no more. That's 80% less. Well, this is dropping. It's like I'm watching that growth in them that I watched in me, in the way in which that, yes, I want this and I want more. And I want to understand this more in my own body. So watch this. It's kind of like, and I don't, like naturopath or the way I work is not the same as if you go to a doctor's appointment, but I'm almost like the bridge that the reason you come see me is because you have all the discomforts of what you were dealing with. So when they turn around and they are like, okay, I got the phone call and they said everything's normal, but I have all these symptoms. And I'm like, okay, let's lean into this. And now they're looking at information that is theirs. It's their own information. So whether or not we do any type of testing out in the world or they're actually looking at it, they used to avoid it.
Yeah.
So that
Well,
avoid
it's handing authority over.
yeah.
It's kind of, we do this with our finances too. We do it with our
Yes.
emotions, and
Yes.
we do it with our medical history. Like, so it's like, oh, you're the expert, you're the authority. So I'm just going to hand this off and wait for you to tell. We do it with our kids too. We're going to
Yes.
send them to
The
school, to the
treatment.
sitter, to their college or the job. Someone's going to do it for us. I am so guilty of this. If I would have known what I know now, I would have done things completely different. I didn't know what I didn't know, right? Same
Correct.
with you. But what I'm realizing now is that inability to confront discomfort was the reason behind all of it.
And it's the same part as the woman who doesn't want to get on the scale to see a number.
Exactly. It's
It's
the inability to confront.
the same.
We don't
Yeah.
want to see what we can't
It's
change or don't
what
have control over. And what we do in coaching is we become personally responsible for everything, and we begin to control our life, which in the Bible Belt is not well accepted.
no, because that makes you independent and have your own thoughts but it makes you so much of a freeing person. And freeing person is because the anxiety melts away. Freeing because of the fact that like all these, I call it these labels of we put the one word stress and not realizing that it's a subword of tension. That's also another word that goes back to the discomfort. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. Aren't you discomfortable? When they go into, or even myself, when I was using that word stress, I don't even use the word anymore, because the reason I don't use it is because I can now describe it
Without using
different
the word or the label
without
or the
using the
diagnosis.
word, and the
Mm.
person actually gets a clearer picture of what's happening.
It goes back to that being aloof. So when we generalize and label,
Yes.
we're getting that reactive part of the mind right off the top of the head, and we're not actually getting the answer.
And that biggest part is like, that's where I saw so much of the defensive, like, I got to defend this. And I mean, I would literally watch the clock 15, 20 minutes defending. And then, but I looked back in my own life and I was doing the same thing.
Same thing. Yeah.
And it's like,
How
wait a
hard was
minute.
that module on jeering?
I think I watched the video 5 times before I could actually write the homework. I had to journal. I had to go take walks. Like, I had to literally go walk a mile. I had to drive to my location that I go walk. I knew exactly what a mile was going to be before I would feel my body actually letting go, to be able to actually just go read the information, to be able to write the answers down.
That crazy. We can't even receive
I
information that's
couldn't.
against our subconscious belief.
Yeah.
This is the biggest reason, like that Bible Belt area has a problem with control. When I say I control my life, there's this anti-Christ thing that's been penetrated into control. And it's like, you don't control, God controls everything. That is why we have so many sick people waiting for
Yeah.
something to come in and do something, instead of, no, we've been given and granted the ability
Absolutely.
to control through confrontation and discomfort.
And when I embrace discomfort, I'm glad you used that word, because that was to be uncomfortable in the uncomfortable, to get uncomfortable and to be more uncomfortable. Like, it was like almost a 7 layer out of body, like, oh, oh, oh. But I was actually watching myself. I call it playing with it. I started playing with it like, "Ooh, well, if I get to this, then I'm really uncomfortable, but if I step one more," it's kinda like almost on the levels on the treadmill or on the stair step.
It's interesting you say out of body, because we are out of body, and
We
it's
are.
the ability to go in. So when it's so uncomfortable, the shame, the pain, the
Mm,
trauma in our body, in present time
mm,
right here, that we have ejected. That's what we can't confront, is ourselves. It's
yes.
not, some people think confrontation is confronting the person that harmed you.
It's
It's
not.
putting the, it's not, this is nothing to, there is no blame at
No.
all, but it's so distorted according to their paradigm or their story. And I'm like, Kris, how do we, and I'm going to use you as an example,
Mhm,
what were we able to reach in you in
mm,
order for you to see this? What do you think it was from a personal perspective? Like, how, because you were in this ecosystem, you were in this container, and it reached you.
mhm,
What was it that, even though you fought it,
mhm. Oh, yeah.
what was it that made that, either you wanted it or you
Mm.
were willing, you were able, maybe it's you were able to understand that you weren't able to understand before? What do you think that was?
It was listening to the questions differently. So,
Mm,
automatically, when someone goes to ask you a question, before they're even asking, you're already thinking of the answer. Instead, I would let a pause happen. So I would pause, I would listen to the question, and sometimes I would ask, "Can you say that again? Would you repeat that, please?" The second time, it's kind of like these layers. I was actually really had my ears on. I was hearing the information, and I was like, let me come from my authentic self instead of the one or the self that I've always said to give the right answer so you don't get whipped, so you don't get punished, so you don't get the F on the test. Because you see, we go for the perfection of the way our voice is going to respond in a word. So that's that vibration of our voice. And so when I started, and I connected this to something actually. Okay, when I was in the third grade, I took speech therapy. I did not get two of my eye teeth on the bottom come in as an adult. So I had a missing gap. So my THs, my SHs, my CHs weren't pronounced correctly because I couldn't roll my tongue to pronounce it. So I heard words differently. I made a huge connection going back to me being in speech therapy with shame, with embarrassment, with the kids making fun because I was pulled out the class and going in this other classroom. And when I would hear a word that I had not been exposed to before, that's when I would ask to, can you repeat that? And I would write the word down. And actually, I was the type of child that I couldn't spell. Okay, so I came to realize I couldn't hear the word properly. So I couldn't spell the word properly. But then how did you want me to go look it up in the dictionary to be able to get the definition of the word? So I was the first person on a BlackBerry to have a dictionary because I needed to look words up. The more I kept digging into the words or where the root of the word came from, was the deeper it sat in me in the listening. So in human design, I actually am I'm trying to think of gate 7, but it has to do with listening. And I was like, that was a big connection too.
Mhm.
And I realized that for me, I wasn't hearing a question being asked. I was thinking the minute a person asked a question, I needed to protect.
Interesting. The defense, like you're like, I go for perfection to
Yeah.
avoid the shame and the embarrassment.
Right.
And then you have a whole part of your life missing. Your a whole
And you
part
brought this into your professional life.
of your growth, like a
Right.
part of your growth and development was
Yeah.
missing, even as an adult. I
Even as
wonder,
an adult.
I'm so curious about this now that because you're not 20.
No.
So that means you've repeated this pattern until now you've stopped it later, right? Which is
Yes.
that's kind of a lot to be said for you actually came to the conclusion and made the decision to come here. I know you didn't know what coach training was compared to what it was, right? What did you think it was? And then what did it
Okay,
end up
so
being?
I actually had been in like a coach training for 6 years. And
Like
in those
getting coached, you mean? Okay.
getting weekly coached, 12 weeks at an interval, taking a couple of weeks off. So since 2020, I had signed up in February with another coaching program, and I did this on and off the last 4.5 years, but I had, done some items before. I've actually hired coaches to work with me. And what I came to realize is that, yes, the skill set of learning, the other programs were great, but it definitely had this component to build the connection of my emotional intelligence and to understand it, but in all bodies. We talk about the mind bodies. Okay, so I say the mental, the emotional, the physical body, and the spiritual.
Mhm.
To see it evolve in all of these bodies and make that transformation and have, I almost call it like so many more dimensions to it than just the way in which that I was going. I mean, I was given homework and I've always done the homework. And you had to be, this one program I did, you had to be 100% committed. Like you had to show up and you couldn't miss a lesson. The lesson had to be in a certain sequence. And I did it all. But the biggest part was it was all still going back to the way in which that you're given a bunch of answers and then I could put the facade and answer it the way I wanted versus if somebody's going to actually
Apply.
coach me but being able to hear the question and then come in with, oh, wait, I'm curious. Tell me a little more about that. And coming in into that deeper and deeper layer that was able to stay with that one place, that one string we were unraveling, we were unveiling, we were exposing. That was like a totally deeper level in how we just, have so many questions, we answer them. Now, don't get me wrong, it totally helped me to write all of my, I call it my value words. It helped me to do all of those components, but this helped me to become those words that I wrote down so many years ago. And they were proper. Like one of mine is joy. Well, it has helped me show up in life. I actually had a compliment from someone in October, and they literally texted me. We were at this big auditorium and she had saw me and she was watching me. And she literally sent me a text and said, "My God, you are glowing." And when I read her text message, inside of me validated instead of like, you want to go back and block and lower it. I did.
Deflect it.
Yeah,
Can't
deflect
receive it.
it, see it, receive it. I did. I feel that was
Mm,
all I sent back to her. And it was the highest level of receiving that I had done in so long of like, yes, this is what I've, this is what joy has been cracking open in me and helping me to become the person. I know I've always been this person, and we are what we're looking for. We're already that, but we don't know how to. I almost think about a colleague of mine uses the Russian dolls, and it's like the little one that's inside the next one, that's inside the next one. If you don't know what Russian dolls are, like, just
yeah.
Google them. It's really fun because you're like, "Oh my god." It's like, "Okay, well, we took that layer off. Now we have this next layer, and we have this next." I think I allowed you to get into this inner core of layer of being that through the process, it was such a safe place. It was such a trusted, and because, like a lot of times we're looking to trust someone. And if we've always been betrayed, you're going to automatically find
Yeah.
reasons to not trust. But I think what happened was it's like the layers almost seeped into the next layer of trust and the next layer of trust and the next, because I've always been a very trusting and faith filled person. When I say faith filled, I'm not a person that goes around with a lot of fears. Now, we all have our forget at the edge of a cliff, which I have been recently going down the wrong trail on the hike. And I'm like, okay, that's a long way down if I slip right here. Now, but the part was I trusted that we could find the route and get where we needed to do instead of going out in a full panic attack, which I would have possibly done years ago
Yeah, if you wouldn't have had the tools
if I
in
wouldn't
order
have had the
to stay
tools
stable. That's what I hear a
and
lot
to
is
control, like, okay, frontal lobe, stop. We're going back to, logical, and we know that there's a trail out of here.
it's to recognize. So what I hear you saying is you've done other programs and you took it in mentally, but you weren't able to experience it
Mm,
or apply it
up-
in order to become it. And now
yes,
you have found the resource or the access to be able to take information, assimilate it, and become it. And
yes.
I think this is a big thing. And it's probably for your patients too, who receive diagnosis, who take the supplements, who address the symptoms, and they're hearing the other layers, but they actually are not able to apply.
Why
And
it?
that would only be because they didn't understand. And I think that's something that we really focus on is to make sure that our students understand. We look
And
up words all the time. We
yeah.
break down the meaning. We show how it's used in different ways. Like this word can mean this and this and this. How are you hearing it? Because it causes confusion. And when we're confused,
Oh,
we
yeah.
can't confront because we're dysregulated. So when I don't even know if you noticed going through the process, we start with mindset. We
Mhm.
make sure you understand mindset first so that you can see facts from thoughts, from emotion, from results. Like we break that down. And that's the first part of it before we ever go into the emotional part. but you can't see that because like
No.
we as the teacher, right, are in charge of the way it's delivered through my own experience of exactly what you mentioned. I was going in, I was saying the words, but then I was having the imposter syndrome. I wasn't able to apply. I wasn't becoming, but I knew a bunch of stuff. So I could say it,
Yes.
but it wasn't being it. I wasn't living it. And so
Yeah.
when I
The
came up with the
being.
modules of how to put it in that
Mhm.
order, I was like, it has to have mindset first to understand. Otherwise, when we get into the emotional and the unlayering, they can't regulate because we use mindset to regulate.
Yes.
So if you can't get stable, then you can't experience those layers. It almost feels like you would die because the nervous system is so activated and the frontal cortex goes off. So your brain can't go in to defend you. And so then you feel handicapped. And this is what happens with a lot of people
Mhm.
in coaching. Then we recognize the habits and behaviors and what that's creating. And then we come right back to mindset. So some people get stuck in the middle and they want to keep unraveling, unpacking, and staying in the
Yes.
healing process.
Yes.
It was like, we're not here to stay in the healing process. You do that one or two times, you
Right.
learn the skill set, we give you access to that part, and then we go into action of application to become. But if you don't have the worthiness to receive, you cannot get through the process. So then we got to go back to the mindset at the beginning. I know you've seen me
Yeah.
take others through this.
Absolutely, absolutely, and that was the biggest part that I had came in and definitely knew like, I had opened up the receiving side. So I came into this program in the receive for sure, and we almost call it like this buffering where it's like it comes to this receive, and then this was the most I could receive at one
Yeah.
time, and then I had to allow it to even come in deep, more uncomfortable level to receive at a more, it
Wait,
almost
listen, it's crazy. People don't think that, but if someone threw $1 million at you, your ability to receive, you would get rid of all but what you could keep. Maybe it
exactly.
would be $10,000, but
Yep.
you already know it because it's already
Yep.
in your savings account. And every
Yep.
time you get a buff, you take it back down. We have a thermostat to what we can receive, to what we
Mhm.
can believe, and we get dysregulated. Did you see the coaching call today? We had someone on the coaching call, and she's just blown it out the water. We did an interview with her recently, and now she's like having a really hard time staying here to keep receiving. And so it's like you start like
Yeah.
throwing it away, you start trying to get rid of it. So when we see this is happening, we come in tighter and
Exactly.
closer, but without babying and without like
Yes. Yes.
cuddling, because that reactivates the unresolved traumas of when they needed that cuddling. And we don't want to do that because you're
No.
now an adult. And but
Yeah.
this is tricky, tricky.
I've just watched this, like, blossom in my marriage. I've watched this blossom with other relationships. And the beauty of it now is that I even got told, okay, I really wanted you to grow. I didn't think I wanted you to grow that much. But now they're literally telling me this: thank you, thank you, thank you for growing and pushing that capacity to show us that there's so much more.
That's
I
so
think
good.
that was the biggest compliment I received in the it was actually last weekend, and I have watched this happen with other people that are in my inner life, I call it, in where we think we get to this certain age and we don't have any more gifts to give, but I'm watching these people who acquired all of these like certifications and be at a different stage in life. But at that different stage in life, something was called for more. And at first, when I sit here and tell you, like they went with fangs out and said, no. And now they're leaning into it and they're actually in more advanced programs in this same grief world. And I'm watching them blossom beyond what they could even imagine they're blossoming. And I got whispered today by somebody, thank you. And you know what it's for. I don't need to say anything more.
That's being the role model.
And you
That's being
see,
the role model. The role
all of
model
me
doesn't come from
understand that now.
telling them what to do.
No.
That's what, right? It used to be just try to fix them. Let's
Yeah.
show them. Let's tell them. And it's an urgent responsibility. It feels like that's what you have to do. Like you're responsible for them. But a role model is actually doing it and they are watching to see that it is possible, I create the model for others to follow.
Yeah,
Follow, not do it.
for them.
But it's so hard, right? Because the mind thinks that's what that energy means. It's the hardest thing to really understand.
Yes.
Yeah,
That
it's
is
your
like a
job is
very
to become and be the example of becoming. That's it.
and that is like brings me the most joy now. That is like what just opens and cracks me open to like, yes, this is so much more free. This makes my body relax. This makes my body not even want to respond anymore. Okay, you can struggle there a little bit longer.
Yeah, you like just let me know what you need. I will be here.
I can
I can
hold
hold
your
space.
space. I am so good now at holding that space and accepting,
Yeah.
and it's okay now. It don't make me uncomfortable anymore. You see, we get so uncomfortable when somebody's uncomfortable that we
Which
can't
is
let
why
we
which is
wanna
why people try to fix people
fix
so
it.
they don't have to feel uncomfortable. It's like, why don't you just feel uncomfortable instead of trying to, because you're harming them when you're trying to fix them.
Yes.
You're harming both of you. So what's next for you, Kris? So first, let me go back just a second because we didn't do this at the beginning. Your career started at Winn-Dixie.
Yeah. Actually, I went to work, I was 13. So I worked at the Hungry Hobo for 3 years before I even started at Winn-Dixie at 16 years old. So 30 years I did Winn-Dixie.
And then you decided you wanted more. You weren't like, how did,
Actually, Winn-Dixie was going into chapter 13.
got it?
And so there was like that warning sign. Some things happen where they cut you off and you got to go learn the experience. Well, mine was like this gradual. Oh, wait, they're going into chapter 13. And because I'm curious and because I want to know more on the data, I actually went and started reading their financial reports that they have to make public. And I'm doing the writing on the wall is all here. It is going under. And then what I did was I asked the question, what's next? Okay, I had to go do holy hours. I had to go like emerge in because in one day, life showed me my hobby. And I had actually taken some certification courses and had these certificates. And I'm doing, oh, wait a minute. I have these certifications. So I was invited to go to Salt Lake City and I went to this conference and they had this huge auditorium of different vendors and they had schools there. And so I went up to the different schools that they had, and one of them looked at me and said, "Well, don't you have all of some of these certifications? You know, you can get your transcript, you can send it to us, and you will not have to take these courses." And I'm
Oh,
like,
you could apply it.
"You can apply it, and then wait, look, I did this." And I said, "How much money I'm gonna save?" Because look, I was working at Winn-Dixie. When I left there, I was making 13.25 an hour. And I thought, I couldn't get anything more than this.
Mm,
This was top line.
that's what you could have.
That's all I could have and hold. And so I ended up looking at the schools, sent the information in, and this school was going to take all my credits, and that's why I chose them. But you know what I love? That school's still here today, and it is thriving, and so many people graduate from that school now. And so I ended up after leaving Winn-Dixie after 30 years there. And the month before, I had started renting this one room from my hairdresser. So,
And that was to do naturopathic work.
yeah, to tell nobody, I couldn't tell nobody. Everything was a secret in my life. You can't tell too many people because if I tell people, then
You're gonna
I
hurt.
might fail. So then I'll have to tell them I failed. And that would be like, the good and the bad. Like I did something bad. I was so stuck in that good and bad. And
Mhm.
today I am so glad I'm freed. If there is one thing I am freed from is who makes something good and who makes something bad.
That's so good.
Like, so then I turn around and I leaned in, and that's when I was 42 years old. And do you know when I was 21, I wrote Tony Robbins' 100 list of if you had unlimited time, talent, and money, what would you do? Do you know that I put at 42 years old, I wanted to be an entrepreneur? I went find that journal. I went pull that journal out, and there it was. And I'm just like, what? We fast forward, and 5 years ago, 7 years ago. This is the thriving industry that every healthcare professional wants to get into. You have gobs of healthcare professionals who are at retired ages, have been medical doctors. Guess what they're doing now? They have all wellness clinics and they're doing everything we're doing at so many different levels.
Yep.
And I was like, oh my God, I listened to my calling. I listened to where exactly I was supposed to be. Winn-Dixie was huge college for me because when I sit here and tell you inventory control, finances, you name a department, I ran it. I knew how to manage. I knew how to do so many aspects of business that I was very highly trained for. And so I came in with the strength. I'm not scared of the finance side, of the business side. That I wasn't scared of. It was the imposter syndrome of I'm never going to be good enough because I don't have this other degree and that other and the other and the
And I can make more than $13 an hour.
exactly. And the first year I was in business, I doubled that. I was just sitting back saying, wow, okay. And
How many years ago was that?
we're actually should be at the some 60, that's what, 17, 18 years ago.
Cool.
Because when I was 30, 36, 37 was when I started weekend classes, taking the natural health classes, and just, I call it as a hobby. As a matter of fact, before that, like my mom would always take like courses, whether it was with Red Shoes or something, we were always taking weekend courses. So I would go with her and be able to do that. And when I came to realize like everything I had been taking courses in would line me up for exactly where I am today.
Love that.
And do you know that I have a daughter who ended up with a psychology degree, a granddaughter who wants a psychology degree? And I'm just sitting there laughing. I said, you think while they were in their mama's belly or in my belly, like they were just getting the overflow of everything I was regurgitating of this love for life or love for, you
Or
know,
for helping and understanding what makes us do the
yeah.
things we do, right? It's behavior stuff. So what's next for you?
So
Because
what's next?
by the way, Kris has graduated as an integrative mind body coach now.
And so I definitely want to build more my one on, one on many. So on Thursdays, I actually have a noon call that I
But
would love to get more people in. Like,
yeah, so but what's next
yeah.
for? So you're doing the holistic stuff, you have a clinic. So what are you adding? Like what does that look like?
Oh, so I'm going
Is
to
it
add life coaching.
got
I'm
it?
actually going to be adding the life coaching and bringing that integrated mind body coaching into the program, into where someone can come in and dip their toes into exactly this journey of stop this part of looking that there's something outside of us. It's all in here. It's already built.
So you'll still serve the physical, but you're going to add like the mental and spiritual to that. Like, what is that? What were you? I'm not quite sure what you weren't doing before that you're going to be doing now. What
So
part?
I really was incorporating the mind body aspect into the consultations. So, what I'm kind of looking at now is if a person wanted to not deal with the health issues and be able to say, okay, I know that there's a missing link. How do I help navigate through that? So, I want to be able to take them and be able to work with my colleagues, or so whether or not you're a colleague who's in this work already and wants to be able to lean in to fill in the gap of there's something missing.
You're saying for themselves. So if you have a colleague
Of
that's doing what you
themselves.
were doing and then you weren't able to hold the space and confront that, you
Yes,
can actually do that as life coaching with them.
correct.
Love
And
that. That would be like me helping a coach personally so they can be a better coach.
yes, absolutely. Because that was the one thing that definitely attracted me to the program, was because of the simple fact that you were already saying you're already all of these titles, yet you're thinking there's still something missing, but I can show you that way.
So you're probably seeing this with your employees too, right? That there's like if you
Mhm.
can mentor and assist the
Yes.
clinicians, the practitioners with the emotional regulation part, is that the part that you think is missing?
I really think that's the part
Yeah.
that's missing because I do have 2 very credentialed people that are working for me. So, like, if there was a place in my life that I would say was my dream life, it would be right now because I have 2 clinicians in my office that see clients that have all the certifications, the degrees, and they are so willing to actually they're like so willing to take on because some people ask me like, Kris, when you retire, who's going to take this on? And I said, oh no, that's being built. I have the legacy people behind me who want this. But one of the things that I'm really noticing is that this one part that I filled in this last year and a half, that's that part that they themselves are needing.
You got to
And
pass it on.
pass it on in order because one of them actually, I needed to be able to get my certification hours, and one of them was actually one of the people who I actually did do the coaching with. And it's been beautiful to watch the unveiling with this person as we blossom into, oh my God, I wrote the story like this for so long, but it's really just these 2 words. I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, it's
And that's where
crazy.
they were exhausted,
Yeah.
exhausted into the, I'm going to call it the theses. That was a 550-page versus the one sentence.
Oh my God, I'm just remembering when I first started working with you, you teared up and you were so burnt out. You were so afraid of getting burnt out again. Do you remember? I just
Oh,
remember that
yeah.
when you said it.
Yes.
Has Tell me in your experience, did
Hmm.
that happen? Are you more stable? Do you think
Oh,
that you're at risk of burning out? Like, because that
no,
was your fear. That you were like, you didn't even want to make more money or do more
no,
because of that. And I was
because
like, I promise you that's not how this is going to be. And you were just so,
yes. So when I look at that now, I was at this part where no, adding one more thing means that I'm going to burn out even more and adding this and what happened is I didn't realize all the ways in which that it wasn't going to be a tangible takeaway. It was all this emotional takeaway. And when we started unpacking that suitcase, and when I said, I know you have to give it out to the universe, but we started really giving it out and like, no, I don't want this anymore. That lighterness, like today, I'm not scared of burnout because I know my nose, I know what I'm leaning into, and I know what I absolutely do not want to do anymore. And that's what I'm like. The girls know that if there's a person under the age of 18, I'm not seeing them.
mm.
I'm
I
not
bet,
there in my
did
life.
that feel impossible when you started that you were going to be able to pick? Yeah.
Oh,
You're like, I have to do it all.
no, and I actually mentor many people, and they actually do their own consultations, but I'm just the gap with the part of, okay, I need to go over this client for 15 minutes. They don't tell me the name, they don't tell me anything. I just brainstorm with them and show them the directions or the missing links.
Love
And
that.
yeah,
I love that. That's completely different than whenever you came in. This is scalable. What you were
yeah,
doing before was not
not
scalable.
doable. No.
So tell me, just to wrap this up, we'll leave everyone on a good note. What were the wins that you now possess from the last year, year and a half?
Amazing relationships.
Mm,
That is the biggest win. I would not change what I have accomplished in relationships for nothing in the world. The way I can show up now in a consultation is the most beautiful that I watched them walk away so empowered and like I'm getting, oh wow. And there's one thing about being heard, but there's a whole nother label about, oh my God, I'm getting this now. Oh, I see why I need to look at this. So, what is it? What we don't look at, we can't change. So, the biggest part for me is being able to take that zoom lens on that camera and look deeper into something and say, I can change that and it doesn't have to overwhelm me. As a matter of fact, I'll bring this up to close. We unpacked 40 pounds of layers of me in this journey. I honestly finally made that 40-pound mark. And I've worked the programs of eating correctly. And I know the missing link was this definitely unpacking.
40-pound weight loss.
Yep.
That's amazing. Emotional weight loss.
Emotional weight loss.
Because I remember that. It was like
I had to
you can
protect.
do all the diets, all the things, but if you're energetically holding that, you cannot, your body will not release the weight.
No, and I have a new word for inflammation. And I literally call it, I said, okay, you still want that ball and chain? You still want that ball and chain? Like, even
See
though
it
we let
differently.
one link at a go, one link, can we let those go? And now I can see it. I see it so much. And it's so freeing.
This
It's
is
so
so
freeing.
good. So 40-pound weight loss, better relationships, communication, in control, and now you have a scalable business
Yes.
and new tools for your clients.
And new tools for the clients and new tools to help other practitioners.
That's amazing. Thank you for coming on and sharing your story.
Thank you for having me as a guest today. I'm honored.
Look forward to seeing what your next steps are and where this is going to go. Are you excited?
Oh, I am over thrilled.
Because it's interesting, right? Like when you first came, you couldn't see where you are today. Could you have imagined where you are today?
I could not have imagined this place of like, I actually have something that right there says always choose joy. And I'm going to sit here and say, as I breathe in to every part of my being, I am choosing joy. And at one point in my life, I think I was just looking for misery.
But it's so interesting that we're like, what do you want? What do you want? But you mentally can't go to where you want because you're subconsciously blocked from ever having it. And I think this is what you guys see. Many of the practitioners that I work
Mhm.
with is what they're missing is that their client or patient actually can't imagine. I'm willing
Yeah,
to be surprised what my mind has yet to imagine or experience. Like
that is
that's
like something I say so often. I have it written on a sticky note on my mirror, and I start my day off like that.
yeah, something new today, something that my mind
Mhm.
is not blocking and
Surprise.
limiting.
I like actually, I'm the person who loves to give surprises. I like a surprise because it's like a surprise just lights you up, especially when it's like the perfect surprise.
All right. Well, we'll see you on the other side. I'll put your contact link and stuff here for anybody who wants to join your group or work with you or reach out to you, whether they're a practitioner or a client. We'll put all of this in the show notes.
See you on the other side.
Thanks for listening to this episode of More Than Mindset.